Hi there, I'm Leo Whitehorse. I'm originally from South Dakota. I come from the Rosebud Sioux Reservation in Rosebud, South Dakota.
My name is Sheena Francine Poles, and I am a tribal enrolled member of the Fort Belknap Indian community. My tribes are Arapaho, Assiniboine, and Gros Ventre.
Shamai, Hui Leilani Sapsalian, Eugene, Oregon, Yisushlianga, Ilamka Chikhnut. My name is Leilani Sapsalian. I'm Alutik or Sukpiak. My family, my grandma was born in the native village of Chignik, but I was born and raised here in Eugene, Oregon.
I'm Esther Stutzman. I am Coos, Honest Coos, and Kumimakawapuya.
And I'm Shannon Stutzman, also Honest Coos in Kumimakawapuya.
Yawa Sasuk Wasjogi. My name is Coyote Boy. Hook Gawa Mokok Sassus. That's my Indian name. Noah Kini Elksikni Choi Moa Kini Mokoks. I'm Klamath Modak. Chilikin Duck. Busuk Salos Duck. And that's basically called Chilikin now, and there's Busuk Salos Duck before.
My name is Kunu Bearchum. I'm Northern Cheyenne on my father's side, and Ho-Chunk Nation and German on my mother's side.
Na Naniha Princess Bass Mason, Na Nanamona Dokobadi dos Klamath Falls Night, Na Nakon Portland, Oregon. So I'm Princess Bass Mason, I'm Klamath in Western Shoshone.
My name is Megan England, and I'm enrolled in the Confederated Tribes of Siletz Indians. It's one of the Western Oregon tribes that's indigenous to the area that we're in. And my ancestry is Chetco and Tututni from the southern Oregon coast, and also Gros Ventre from eastern Montana.
I'm ultimately really interested in language revitalization, in all tribes being able to reconnect with their culture and their language. I think it's not just like, oh, I only want the Western Shoshone or the Klamath to like start speaking again. It's I want all Oregon tribes. I want every Native person to be able to reconnect with their roots, and it's so important. Discussing your time at boarding school, would you mind telling us which one you attended and for how long?
Mission, South Dakota. There's a school there that at the time was run by the Bureau of Indian Affairs, and they had a boys' dorm, a girls' dorm, and then they had a cafeteria, and they had the BIA had built a high school there, and built these things, and they built housing for all the teachers and stuff outside there. So it was, and different communities had different things. The Catholic Church, like in St. Francis, was run by brothers, and the BIA kind of ran the one that I was in. And it really, I don't know, it didn't, all it was like I don't know, you're just being held there and educated, but you're not taught your own culture. That's the last part of assimilating you, is that you went to school and learned how to be like them, and something that you live with as a kid. You know that it's not quite right. Certain vacations days like Thanksgiving and Christmas and stuff, then your parents would come and get you and take you home, and you get to spend whatever time that is and then they would bring it back to the boarding school. So there wasn't a lot of teaching of anything, you know. If you had traditional parents, they would teach you stuff.
Yeah, I started, hearing the language as a kid in the town of Chillicothe, and there was only a few speakers left, and they would be talking on the corner, and saying some Indian words, so we was able to hear how the sounds went. And then, Gordon Bettles, Archibald Gordon, the steward of the Longhouse, he had done lots of work in bringing the dictionaries to the tribe and getting the revitalization going. So it was at that time that I was a kid, I started looking into the phrase book and looking at the books they had.
Being a person who's always worked with schools and specifically with Indian education programs since 1974, I thought, well, it would be really nice to start introducing some really specific Kalapuya history and language into the schools. I could not find one source of the Kalapuya language. It had been heavily advertised for years that the Kalapuya people were extinct. And that began the journey of trying to find everything I can about the Kalapuya people and specifically about the language, which was non-existent. We have no fluent speakers.
And then, what was about 7 years ago?
I think so.
This man named Paul McCartney, not the singer, got a hold of Mom and said, I've been studying your language for several years now, and I think it's the most beautiful language I've ever heard in my life. Would you like to learn it? And we were like, yeah, hello, so we met up with him, and ever since then we worked together to collaborate, and he wanted to make a dictionary with all the words.
And when we saw how much it was going to be, we about fell through the floor. $18,000 for 150 copies.
So we ended up just choosing to do 100. So my youngest daughter, Ayana, she's like, oh, well, why don't we just make a GoFundMe? Under 2 weeks, she raised $10,000 for the printing of the dictionary project, and we were able to get that first 100 printed off. So there's 4 volumes. There's 2 English to Kalapuya and 2 Kalapuya to English.
What are some of the benefits you have seen for Native youth when they connect with other Native students? What are some of the unique needs these students might have when they are going to school in the Eugene Springfield area?
A lot of Native youth are really kind of comfortable and confident in who they are, but some of them are developing their Indigenous identities in relation to really kind of static and stoic stereotypes about Native people, And when you're in community, you can see, whoa, that's not who we are. Like, that's a white invention. That's a colonial imagination. Like, we're diverse, we're vibrant, we're contemporary. And I think just having that, vibrant, diverse community really gives youth all types of role models they can look up to and kind of expansive futures and possibilities for themselves. So they can see that, it's just an exciting time to be Native.
I work currently at the Land Education Service District. I work for the Native Youth Wellness Program. So what I do is I support the Bethel, Eugene, 4J, and Springfield school districts, Native Youth programs or NASU programs that they currently have. And I go and try to encourage children to learn more about the culture, the traditions, and keeping those fundamental curriculum available to those children and letting them know that they're there. We also hold community nights and things like that last Tuesday of every month at the LCC Longhouse, and we do tabling and outreach to the community as well, so they know who we are and what our program is about.
Thinking about elders that have been involved in our program and how much their participation has meant to us. And one elder is Twyla Sowers, She's a Lakota elder and educator, and she's, still involved in the community here in Eugene and Springfield. And anyone who knows Native education in this area usually knows about her and her work. Like, her impact is really far-reaching. And so I approached her when we were starting the Native Youth Group just to get her advice, like how, from all of your time and experience working with youth, like, what advice would you give me? And she just talked about her work with, Wilma Crow. She's the late Standing Rock elder that passed away and was really also involved in our center. And her and Wilma, used to do beading and other activities with youth. And so she was telling me how it's really important to give youth like a shared activity and experience together, but then have each of them look into their own unique identities and cultures and bring something from their community and culture to that work. And that lesson really stayed with me. Like, we can be in community with one another, but we don't have to be one another. And so it's really important to turn youth toward their own communities and cultures, and also have a strong understanding of who they are and the people and places they come from.
Yeah, I've been a graphic artist to make money for most of my career. I became a fine artist more only because I could afford to do those things. It's well received, I guess. I'm a Lakota artist. I'm not a Native artist, right? I don't know what Klamath people do. I don't know what Navajos do. That's a different culture. They have different belief systems. They, prize certain things that's different. So it's like, I stick within what I know. So when people are asking me questions about my art and how I'm expressing it, this is Lakota artwork. This is what I grew up with. I know these things, and I'm trying to give you the best truth that I can from my point of view where I'm standing.
Where we teach some short little songs in not only Kalapuya but in other languages, because we do music education also. And they'll come up to us and say, I remember that song, and they'll start singing it. So they're really proud of, I think, of being able to have that knowledge of a different culture.
So the curriculum we did for the 6th grade class, this right here is like an example of that Mom put together our counting in Kalapuya. Hold it up, cover your face. So it's Tauna, Gami, Bishin, Tapa, Wan. Kind of weird how 5 is 1 or 1, so that's just her way. I think, it's a good way to put it out there, for kids to have a visual and something they can touch, other than just the oral part of it. But
And they learn it pretty well. We even do math with it. We'll say, what is Gami plus Tapa? You'll see the answer in Kalapuya.
So with language is something that has always interested me. I've always wanted to know other languages, not just English. And I feel like that obviously comes because our ancestors spoke in a different language. And those languages were taken from them, as they were growing. The language, for me, I feel like even if it isn't your own tribe's language, try to find the local tribes around you that have language and learning those languages. At least then you'd still be able to communicate with other people in your area where you live with that language, or even teach somebody else who wants to learn that as well. But also, for me, just because I'm not in Montana where my tribe is or my reservation is, it doesn't mean that I don't want to learn their language as well. I would love to learn their language. There's just so much that language is not just words. They use pictures. They use their hands as symbolization and things like that as well.
The Princess Bass Mason Menaiha. Haganite.
Mokok skekini. Mua aksikni joy mua akini kaya.
Ha. Neba ne Dokobadi dus Klamath knife Pagani
Modich and Oslo. Waklisi.
Zanushuba
Modich.
Ashaza Os.
Something like this with the Illumination project, I think it's very important to, just realize that like we're living in this moment now, but what we're doing and how we're living is history. We are. There's this term going around in Indian country right now that I really love, and it's called be a good ancestor.
That's how I got involved with the Illumination project. I had a relationship with the museum, and they invited me to come be a part of this. And I was really excited because it's a contemporary history project, and I knew that there's a lot of really cool stuff happening in the Native community today, and it would be a way that we could document some of that and highlight it for the community.
Is there anything else you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, like giving an interview or an oral history in this moment, it's really hard to not talk about Palestine and what's happening to Palestinian people. Just as an Indigenous person, I feel so many similarities with the, violence against Palestinians and their dispossession from their homelands. It just mirrors so much of what was done to Native people here in North America. And now it's our country, right, that's inflicting violence on others. So I think I just want to share that, we often talk about colonialism as something that happens in the past, but it's ongoing, and we're living in a place that is, committing active colonial violence against Palestinian people. And so when we think about what it means to live out our responsibilities and engage in anti-colonial work, for us as Indigenous people, yes, that means, contesting colonialism that we experience here, but also means finding solidarity and movement kind of across spaces and recognizing how the nation state that we're a part of is committing violence.
Ashanza Mama Interviews Boina. Thank you for watching the interviews. I appreciate it a lot. And I hope that you got to learn some stuff and gain some insight. Nabashai.